crest. It's got
Mm.
the royal cipher,
Mm.
and because we are the Royal Marines, belong to it was the Queen, now it's the King.
So, so is the Royal Marines? So this is going to be a silly question, but so do they have a sports team? Is there different divisions in the Royal Marines where you've got teams within there, or is it just one
Yeah,
jersey?
yeah, we do a lot of sport. So obviously,
Yeah.
sport and military people go hand in hand together because you get the sporty people that join the armed forces.
Mm.
So I've represented the Royal Marines and Royal Navy at 13 different sports. Uh,
13.
Boxing when I was a young lad, but
13.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
lot.
boxing, football, volleyball, golf, cricket,
Mm.
tennis, athletics. Did a lot
And
of that.
what was your sport of choice? Did you have one that you particularly?
Football. It's always been football. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. No,
really?
that's my favourite. I also love golf as well. I don't play that much, but I definitely watch golf and got a great interest in it. I love that sport because it's the mindset you need to be able to knock a 6 foot putt in to win the US Masters, and it's you against the course. I love that. I think it's a brilliant sport for
Do you know what
mindset.
I've been trying to get my friends into golf. I haven't been golfing much myself. I've been to a few driving ranges, but a lot of people see it as boring. And I think that you've just hit the nail on the head there. It's like you against the course, and you have to have patience and focus. So it's a different type of sport compared to some of the more active ones, like football.
Yeah, I also like other sports as well. I expect you do, but um, I don't know
Mm.
if you're a North London lad.
Yeah, East London, born and raised. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
okay. So up in North London, they got the Alley Pally, and
yeah, yeah,
it's very popular to have all the darts up there. I go up there every year with my son,
yeah,
and we go and support that. And whilst darts used to be for fat blokes drinking beer,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's actually a brilliant sport as well. And people say that's not a sport. Well, I'll tell you what it is, and the mindset they need to be able to be that accurate under massive pressure with thousands of people booing and jeering them. That's a really good thing to go and watch. I've got to be honest.
Oh, I'd love to. That's on my bucket list. I've never gone and watched a darts game, but it's been something that I've watched it since I was young with my older brother, so I've got
Yeah,
good memories of it. And you always think about when you envision a darts player, they are like they've got a bit of a beer belly. They're always drinking beer, and I've always thought to myself, what happens if someone takes it really seriously and trains in the gym, wouldn't that improve their accuracy and allow them to dominate? But I don't know if it's siphoned through. I haven't watched it for a while, but
yeah,
that's
yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting.
You're right, and it's very professional now. They don't piss it up and do all that, and it's a game that requires a lot of qualities and values, much like any other industry. If you want to be at the top of it, well, you've got to sacrifice, right? You've got to have that determination and dedication and focus and sacrifice. You have to do that to be the top of anything now because there's so much money in it all that you want to be successful in any industry. Well, you have to work out what's going to give you that competitive edge over an opponent. In the Marines, it's an edge over an enemy. In
Yeah.
business, it's an edge over a competitor. Yeah,
Ex- Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to kick it off, Scotty. I know we've just rolled into this, but I thought it's good to kind of keep it natural and casual. But just to kind of introduce yourself for the people that will be listening. I know that I've bumped into you through our mediums of outreach, and you were kind enough to give me an opportunity to have a chat with you, which I found inspiring and motivating, even from that brief opportunity I got to speak with you. But yeah, I think it's best if you kind of give a bit of a background, Scotty, as to yourself, because I think that will give the audience that is listening a bit of insight into exactly who is talking about mindset, and then we can kind of move into some of the topics that I've got a real interest in exploring with you, considering what you just mentioned about that difference in military to business and the changes that you may have had to go through, and I think that a lot of people in life just go through. So, Scotty, please tell me a bit about yourself.
yeah. 2 seconds. Uh, so Hi everybody, how you doing? My name's Scotty Mills. I've just come off the back of a 32-year career in Her Majesty's, now His Majesty's Royal Marines, Britain's Commandos, the Green Berets, where I was head of performance for all 6,500 of our British Commandos, both from a physical training perspective, but also from a mental fortitude perspective as well. A supreme privilege of a job, working with some incredible people, where I ended up as head of performance and the highest ranking Black Royal Marine officer in history. Something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I can't believe that. Well, I can't believe that I actually bumped into you, Scotty, for want of a better word. And as I mentioned before, just jumping on this call, I was doing a bit of research and I saw your appearance on ITV, and it did prompt some memories because I think I actually watched that interview with you sitting down with Lorraine. And yeah, I think what I wanted to just jump straight into, Scotty, with your background in the Royal Marines, and the one thing that really stuck in my head was that you must have went through quite a big transition coming out of the military and then moving into uh, corporate life, because now you're speaking and having conversations and inspiring businesses as well as England teams or sports teams. So I just wanted to understand from your perspective, was that a big change for you? Was that a big um, did you have to, was that any different to what you had already experienced in the military, or was that something that you had to also adapt to? And was that quite a bit of a challenge for yourself, or was it quite natural for you?
Yeah, okay. I mean, we've gone to the end of my Marines career straight away there, which is fine, because that transition was something which a lot of people who have served in the armed forces
Yeah.
find really difficult.
Mm,
And I served 32 years, and people were saying to me, Scotty, what are you going to do next when you
mm,
leave? Because you get to around 40 or 50, and it's time to go and do something else. Because serving in the armed forces, you build up these experiences, the qualities, the values, the lessons, the mindset, whereby you hope that one day when you leave, you can overcome the challenges and leaving the military and going into Civvy Street. I've got to be honest with you, I found it really easy. I know not everybody does.
mm,
And the reason I found it easy was because everything that I did during my service, I did everything that I could have dreamt of and more.
mm,
And I felt totally accomplished. I felt very fulfilled in the fact that I did all the jobs that I wanted to do and more. I did all the things I could have dreamt of and more. So when I left, it was easy to make that transition. And I've done quite a bit of speaking in my position as a fairly high ranking Royal Marines commissioned officer by the Queen. I was often in the position where I would pass on my knowledge to young Marines or even to older Marines as well, where I would run sports events. I would be in charge of the physical training and the mental fortitude training, and I would speak about my experiences and lessons to Marines. So I did that for a long time in my career. Also got to work with external sports teams, external businesses, even while I was serving. So that natural carryover went straight into the next phase of my life. Left the Marines, I had almost a seamless transition and started speaking straight away. And I got very fortunate in that people seemed to be very interested in what I had to say. And, I've never really looked for work. Work comes to me, and now I've worked with hundreds of organisations across every industry, from pharmaceuticals to retail, from hospitality to European Space Agency, from the Home Office to Apple and BMW and Tesla. And it's wonderful that I get to now share my experiences of what
mm.
I've learned along my way and get to meet so many wonderful people from all these industries around the world.
Yeah. No, that is amazing. And like you said, I kind of jumped to the end there, Scotty. I appreciate that. And I think one of the reasons why I was so interested in hearing about your transition and whether it was quite easy for you or challenging is just generally, I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are going through business. They've been on a journey themselves. And I think it's different from day one to day 32 or year 32, right? And I guess taking it back to your experience being in the Royal Marines, the first uh, day there, and then fast forward to where you are now, was there any specific advice that you would have given your younger self during that journey that you learned across those years? I mean, you went to Iraq, you've done it all. Like you said, you've also accomplished so much. So I'm sure with that, it wasn't always like that. It didn't start out that way. And there was some lessons you learned along the way in terms of the way you approach things or your perspective. What was that like, or what was that change?
Okay, so I'm a South London lad, come
Mm,
from Peckham originally,
yeah, yeah.
and I come from a very humble background. I got bounced around a little bit as a youngster, and I ended up landing and living with my nan and granddad. My
Mm,
granddad's my mentor, my spirit, my role model, my best mate, my hero. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do, and there's a lot of pressures in a city. You know this, Alex, as well. And I was starting to get myself into a wrong crowd, and there was the likelihood that I was probably going to join one of the South London gangs. Drugs, prison, probably die early was my trajectory.
mm,
So I remember as a young kid, only about 8 years old, and I remember we went for one of those London visits. You probably done the same, where we went to Buckingham Palace, and I was looking through the gates at the changing of the guard. I had no idea what I was going to become then. I had no
yeah.
idea about joining the military. But as we're looking through at the gates at the changing of the guard, that one of the teachers come over to a small group of kids, all of which looked just like me, and which I was one of them. And she said, "You can look through the gates, but people like you don't get to go in places like that."
Mm,
And when you're 8 years old and someone tells you something where you have it reinforced to you that you're not going to make it, you're not going to be good enough, you're not going to amount to anything, you're not going to be successful. People like you. That quote. I know it was in the 70s, but all the same, I've always remembered that. And my nan and granddad supported me, but still I was making some wrong, poor choice decisions. And, that likelihood was I was going to go on that downward spiral. But then one fateful day, my nan and granddad had saved quite hard for me to have these skates, right? I was into
mm,
skating, and they got me these skates as a teenager lad, and I had them over my shoulder. There's a place called Streatham in South London. It's got an ice rink there. And I was going down the high street and it started to rain. I didn't want to get my skates rusted, so I dived into the shop. Never my intention to join the Marines at all.
mm,
And what I've inadvertently done is, whilst I'm in the shop frontage looking up and down the high street, see if the rain's stopped yet, what I've done is that I've inadvertently walked into the Royal Marines recruiting office. True story. Isn't it funny in life sometimes when
yeah.
you turn left or you turn right, or maybe it rains or it doesn't rain that day and it changes the direction and the vector of your life? Well, that's what happened to me. Because
Mm.
now there's a Green Beret sergeant come out the office. He says to me, "You look like a fit lad. Can you do pull-ups?" I'm like, I can actually.
Yeah.
So he's now got me he's dragged me inside. I'm on the pull-up bar. I'm banging out 25, 30, 30. No, I didn't. I
Yeah.
only did four, Alex, I think.
Yeah,
But I did
yeah.
have the skates over my shoulder still.
Mm,
Um, just add a couple each time I tell the story, make myself look good. But
of
I only did a
course,
few.
you have to.
And he said something to me that was the polar opposite of what the teacher had said that day. And he said to me, "Young man, I see some potential in you. Have you thought about joining the Marines?" So he gave me some paperwork. I went back to see the one person I knew who had my back, who didn't want anything from me. My old granddad, who'd served alongside some of the Marines in the war. He said to me, "Son, that is the longest and the hardest training in the world. But if
Mm,
you get through that and earn your Green Beret, it will change your life forever." And of course, he was right. So about 6 months later, I'm 17 years old. Yeah, I get an invitation down to the Commando Training Centre of the Royal Marines in Devon, a place called Lympstone, lovely part of the world. And when I walked in the gates, I saw these instructors with their green berets on, who were living their lives by a different metric to me. They were using words like humility, integrity. They were talking about striving for understated excellence. I was hooked straight away. I mean, if you speak to the youngest recruit all the way up to the oldest veteran, and anybody that served in the 359-year history of His Majesty's Royal Marines, they will instantly be able to tell you about our commando values: courage, determination, unselfishness, and cheerfulness, especially in the face of adversity. So why is it that our youngest, least experienced people of our organisation can tell you instantly about its qualities, its values, its ethos, its mindset? What that's about is that the way that the Marines do it, having a couple of decades later on gone on to go and be one of the officers in command of all of the Marines training, is that we take these words off a poster on the wall and we place them within you, and we demand that it becomes a way of life and you demonstrate these values every day. The way the Marines do it is not very subtle. They make you cold and wet and tired and hungry. They give you something to do you can't do on your own. They might even give you something to lead. And as the training starts, they teach and we listen. They coach and we practice. They mentor and we develop. You know, people's perception of a Green Beret Marine will be a bloke that's got magnificent muscles. He can do 1,000 press-ups and he'll be in your face and shouting.
Yeah.
And the truth is, it's the total polar opposite of that, where we nurture and guide and support and help people on the stepping stones to success, not just in the Marines, but in life. And we give them these qualities, and we ask them to demonstrate these qualities in everything that they do. You know, and as we do the training's really hard and it's layered. They never ask you to do something they wouldn't do themselves. And when they ask you to get down in the mud and start crawling and getting dirty, they're alongside you. The Green Berets are alongside you doing it. You know, if only we had leaders like that in Westminster, right? The ones who we would follow into anywhere. We'd bleed for, you know. I'd love to see that. I would follow them. And you know, we come to the end of the training, right? And the Marines save the hardest for last. You've given so much. You realise that this is not an individual sport. This is about being part of a team, because your collective performance can reach so much higher than any one individual can. The Marines talk about train hard and fight easy. You know all that stuff in the background you have to do, where you leave no stone unturned, where you have that attention to detail, where no one ever gives you a pat on the back, where no one ever thanks you for it, but you know it's got to be done. You'd have had this experience. Everybody watching this has had this experience. You know that stuff where no one ever sees it, but you know you've got to do it to get yourself ready up here. And the thing is, if you haven't done the hard yards, you know, don't you? You know. But if you have, it gives you confidence, it grows your belief, and you feel ready. I love that Usain Bolt quote, the one that says, as long as I'm ready on the start line, there's no stopping me. And that equates to 4 years of passion and dedication and effort and focus and sacrifice. 4 years that goes into running 1 9-second race. And as we come towards the end of our training, and this is my journey into the Green Berets, you know, we've got this aspiration of earning our Green Beret and taking our place in Britain's commandos. And right at the end of the training, in typical Marines fashion, they save the hardest for last. The 4 commando tests in week 30 of training. First one is a 9-mile speed march with all your kit and equipment. You run in, start as a team and you finish as a team as well. If you don't get in the time, one fails, then you all fail. Taking true responsibility, not just for your own performance, but for the performance of others as well. So you have to learn to become a team player. The second one is the Tarzan and Assault course. It's 2 assault courses put together, one of which is 30 feet up in the trees. No safety equipment. If you fall out the tree and land on your head, it's a bad day at the office. You laugh it off, you dust yourself down, you get back up the tree again.
Yeah.
The third one is the endurance course, 2.5 miles of underwater tunnels with obstacles such as Peter's Pool, the Sheep Dip, the Crocodile Pit. And the final one is our famous 30-mile march across the entirety of Dartmoor. Once again, carrying all your kit and equipment, start as a team, finish as a team. If you don't get in the time, you all have to do it again and you all fail together. The Marines demand that you complete each of those commando tests on consecutive days. At the end of the longest and hardest training in the world, you get through that,
That's insane.
they only go and award you one of these, a green. And, you know,
Wow.
you asked me the question, what would I give advice to my younger self? Well, that advice would be not to listen to the naysayers, the ones that tell you you can't do things, you're not going to be good enough, you're not going to make it, you're not going to be successful. You
Mm.
know, my advice, as I say to all young aspiring people who want to try to achieve in their lives, you know, live strong values, be a team player, and above all else, never, ever give in.
That's amazing, Scotty. That's really powerful to just hear that, especially considering your background and it's very similar to mine, right? And I think that a lot of what you mentioned there, especially that point on the small things that go unseen, because as someone that grows up in a rough area or someone that grows up in a circumstance maybe they'd otherwise wish they'd had a bit of a better hand dealt to them. I think you could develop maybe a bit more of a rebellious attitude, and that's what makes it hard to maybe integrate into certain environments straight away. There are pros to that, right? Because you do get that resilience part for yourself. Um, and what's curious for me to understand is you talk about these values that they instill in everyone, and they seem very, very common knowledge, common fact. Like sometimes you'd actually think, like for example, dress smart, maybe fold your clothes, all of these things that don't really they don't look like the big grandiose thing. Like, is this what I do to achieve the big stuff? But over time, you kind of realize that these things are the things that build your confidence levels up, so that you can go on to achieve the bigger things. And I feel that, yeah, go for it, Scotty. Is that am I hitting the nail on the head there, or?
Alex, you've got it. You know, it always starts for me, no matter what team I'm working with. Okay, you know, I've
Mm,
worked with some of the biggest teams in the world
mm,
across sports, across business, across industry. When you get bedrock values in place where people actually believe in them and start living them every day, because it's easy to have values that are on a poster on the
mm,
wall that mean nothing, right? When I go into businesses, I'll often ask, I'll say, look, you know, what are your business values? And half the time people don't know, you
mm,
know, which means that they mean nothing. They're just words on a wall. Okay. But when you get a business, an organization, a team that live these values and live by them every single day, well, they're your bedrock upon which you can then build everything else. But if they're not strong, then they'll crumble and you can't
mm,
build the rest of it on. And one of the carryover benefits, which you astutely pointed to, was that when you get these bedrock values in place, you start to get some of the little stuff right.
mm,
One of the carryover benefits of getting things right is you start to see some success. You start to see some benefits. You know, when you study hard for an exam, you go into the exam, you feel confident, you have belief in yourself, and you know you're going to do well because you've done the hard work, right?
yeah, yeah,
There's no difference between that and the Marines. You do all the hard yards. You get the little things right. You see the
mm,
benefit. It builds your confidence. It builds your belief. And of course, you continue to get lots of little stuff right. Well, all of a sudden, lots of little stuff starts adding up to getting the bigger stuff right in life.
mm,
And when you start to get some of the big stuff right in life, in my experience, which is becoming quite vast now, that's where some of this magic starts to happen. You know, a
mm,
young lad with a debilitating stutter as a young kid who had no chance in life whatsoever, who was destined for gangs and drugs and prison and dead. You know, 32 years later after my career, you know, I've broken a world record. I've carried the Olympic flag into the Olympic Stadium. I've been to 88 countries around the world. I've trained European, world, and Olympic champions. I've written a best-selling book. I've received a national award, and I've dined in Buckingham Palace with the Queen. And if someone like me with
mm,
no chance in life can accomplish some of these things, then surely there's hope for everyone.
Yeah, I have to tip my hat to you, Scotty, for that, man. Wait, did I miss something? The world record. What was the world record?
Yeah, okay. So the best thing to say is pick up my book and read about it because
Okay.
yeah, my book is called Never Give In. Okay, that's
Yeah,
the only
yeah.
plug I'll do for it. But um, so the story about this is a story about failure and
Mm,
about resilience. Because people often say to me, Scott, you talk about all the achievements and stuff, but have you ever failed and stuff? And I I don't like the word failure. I,
mm,
I like to see learning. Let's take the word failure away. Let's fail fast. Let's fail often,
mm,
but let's take the word failure away and just replace it with learning. What have I learned? I might not have got to the level I wanted to, but what could I learn about it? How can I do it better? You know, how can I move from being average to being good, or being good to being great, or how do we move from great to being world class?
mm,
And you've got these different journeys along the way. So remember, I told you one of our commando tests was the 9 mile speed march,
mm,
where we run with all our kit and equipment. We run as a squad, start point, finish point. Well, we do 9 miles now, obviously to earn our green beret. And this is one of the things that Marines are really good at, working as a team. Um, yes, we've got high physical fitness levels, but the majority of it is mental fortitude to make sure
mm,
that you don't let the person by your side down or in front of you or behind you. You're part of a team. You're not going to let the team down. And this is that mindset that we develop from a very, very young age, and it holds you in great standards
mm,
as you go through your life because you believe that anything's possible. So a good mate of mine, he came up to me and said, Scotty, there's quite a few Green Berets who are retired veterans who were serving in the Met Police, the ambulance service. They were serving in the fire brigade and the blue light forces around London. And he decided to get a few of them together because they were mates and they're all sort of 40 or 50 plus years old. And they got a few of them together. They put their military boots on and a green t-shirt, and they run around one of the royal parks. Probably only got a few miles before they're out of breath, and they've ended up having a beer in the pub. There's only a few of them.
yeah.
Probably more beers than they did miles. And and
It's easy to happen.
on that first one, I think about 10 people turned up. Well, they decided to do it the following year and raise some money for the Marines charities, and about 50 turned up. And each year there was more and more interest, and a lot of people want to be involved. And the organizer, a really good mate of mine called Mark Schooler, he said, Scotty, there's a world record in speed marching, but not over 9 miles. It's over marathon distance, almost 3 times 9 miles, 26.2 miles marathon distance, carrying 40 pounds of equipment each. That is 18 and a half bags of sugar in a backpack. Think of it like that.
Mm,
Very, very heavy. So the idea, the army commandos, so not the Marines. They had broken a world record back in 1998, and they held the world record of 4 hours, 19 minutes, and 7 seconds. Many had tried to break it, and everybody had failed, and it was deemed to be one of those unbreakable world records.
mm,
8 have got to start, 8 have got to finish with all the kit. So anyway, it was suggested to me that this is a world record that the Marines should own. So head of physical training, head of mental fortitude. I'm gonna train a team. So trained for 6 months, had a first go, and unfortunately, when we came into the finish line, we were 2 minutes over the time. 4 hours 21, I think we came in. A bitter
yeah.
disappointment. But
That's
the
pretty bad.
Marines aren't renowned for failure, right?
Mm,
Marines aren't renowned for giving up either. So we thought we'd have another go. So out went the Mars bars and bananas and income a diet and nutrition plan. We were a good team, but we needed to be a great team.
mm-hmm,
How do you get
mm,
there? Well, we invested a lot more time in each other. We we put more effort into the training. We joined little Strava groups, and we made sure that we were ready for the next event. Ultimately, taking responsibility, not just for your performance, but for everybody else's as well, that you wouldn't be the weak link that let everybody down. So you'd have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, run 12 miles training, and then go to work as a fireman all day, or in your place of work, wherever it was, because some of them were veterans, you see, as well as trained Marines. So I had a mishmash, and they were scattered all around the UK. So training together was very difficult. So on the day of the race, on our second attempt, we were looking good. 6 miles in, 12 miles in, 18 miles in, looking good. By the time we got to the 24-mile point, this is a superhuman, extreme endurance challenge that probably only 0.1% of Marines could do.
Mm.
That's how hard it is. So get to the 24-mile point, and one of my lads is really struggling, rocking from left to right. He's run through one, then two, then three different walls, metaphorically, and he just had nothing else to give. At the 25.5-mile point, half half a mile from the finish, he collapsed. Total heat
Oh no.
exhaustion. He was lying on his back. I'll give him his due. He was completely out, and his arms and legs were still moving like this whilst on his back. That's Marines
That's
for you.
dedication, man. Yeah.
Yeah. We considered picking him up, which would have been within the rules, and his equipment, and getting to the finish line. But the consultant doctor said to me afterwards that if we'd done that, he'd have been dead by the time we got across the
Oh
line.
no.
So, this wasn't Marines in operations. This was attempting to do a world record, and there's no way that I'd unnecessarily put my brother's life at
Of course.
risk, right? So we broke the world record that day, but it didn't count because 8 started and 7 finished. So we failed again. So what have we learned? Well, we turned a good team into a great team. And as the leader, well, to me, any good leader will take responsibility for their team, because at the end of the day, I selected the team, I chose the tactics, and I realised that I need to put my hand up and say, look, this one's down to me, because I wanted to take the pressure off my team. I know that the guy that collapsed felt terrible, felt like he'd let his family and his team and the Marines down, but he didn't have to, because he'd dared to dream, to raise his head above the parapet, to do something that most Marines wouldn't have even attempted to do. So I've got nothing but massive respect for him. But I know that he suffered with his mental health for that. Anyway, we said we're going to have another go. And what have we learned? What's Scotty learned? Well, we turned a good team into a great team for the second attempt. But it dawned on me, when you're trying to break an unbreakable world record, or so people were saying, being great is not going to be enough. This time, we had to be world class, to do something that no one has ever done. That's what breaking a world record is. And when I realised that we've got to go the next level again. You're talking about these qualities and values and what it looks like in reality. Well, now we're taking responsibility for everybody around us. Even though we were scattered all around the country, we'd travel round together. We'd get to know each other's wives and girlfriends and brothers and sisters and mums and dads. And we'd go out of our way to spend almost every week doing the training together, and we bonded as a team and we came together. That togetherness, like a ring of steel, and that took us to the next level. Talk about Gareth Southgate and that team and that togetherness. Okay, that's what they're looking for. That's what all teams are looking for. Inspirational leaders with teams that can come together, that can perform under pressure, and can bounce back when things don't go to plan, and have that resilience. Well, that's what we did with our resilience, and we bounced back. And we went the extra mile, and we turned a great team into a world-class team. Well, that was the aspiration. And also, I needed a way to be able to communicate with my team as we were going round. And that typical bloke thing, how are you doing this morning, Alex? Yeah, I'm doing fine, everything's great.
Yeah.
Which is easy to say, right? Because that's the normal thing, that's the normal response. But then if I asked you again, Alex, how are you really doing? You might say, oh, do you know what? I had a really bad day today, or like yesterday, or last week this happened, or something like that. I had an argument with the missus, or I've lost my job, or something like that, And sometimes by asking twice, right, is a really good way of engaging with people who you have the privilege to lead or work alongside. And it's a really good way, just a mental health check. Check it out, your pal. How's things?
Mm.
Everything's great. How are you really doing? And that really works. And we incorporated a lot of that during our training. How are you really doing? And we come up with a guide, 0 to 10. 10 being I'm feeling great, everything's great, or I'm fully sorted. 0 meaning I've got nothing left.
Mm.
So as we get to the 6 mile point, everybody's 8s and 9s. 12 mile point, they're 5s and 6s. 18 mile point, they're 3s and 2s. And by the time we got to the 24 mile point, if they were still speaking to me, they were all 0 or 1. Right?
Yeah,
They've given everything.
of course.
So I've got another lad who's rocking from side to side, a different bloke this time. We get to the 25.5 mile point, and something special. The lad who'd collapsed the
Mm.
year before, he wasn't eligible for the team this third time. But I knew for his mental health that he had to be a part of it. So
Mm.
I asked him to be a key position within the support team. He
Mm.
was doing the time, the distance, the speed watches, make sure we're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. So he was in the vehicle. But when we got to the 25.5 mile point and he saw that we were struggling and we'd been here before again, he gets out of his support vehicle. He runs alongside us and gives us the inspiration we need to get through that last half mile. We linked arms, our own ring of steel, and the feeling of crossing the finishing line as world record breakers was incredible. We broke the world record that day in 4 hours, 16 minutes and 43 seconds, taking over 2.5 minutes off the existing world record. The pride and privilege I have in leading such a spectacular team um, is one of my proudest moments, and I'm in bewildered awe about how incredible my team performed. Not just that day, but just the incredible people that I get to work with and have got to work with throughout my career. And that's one of my favourite moments of my life.
Mate, I need to get that book. What's that book called again?
Yeah,
What is that book? Because that is an amazing.
it's called Never Give In.
Never give in.
The
I'm
12
purchasing it.
Commando Rules for
Like,
Life.
100% purchasing that after that
Okay,
story.
if you get up and go, has got up and gone, get in there, and hopefully it will steer you back in the right direction where you need to be.
100%, because that's so relatable in terms of when you say failure and the lexicon that you use to explain or put a phrase out there into the universe about something that's happened and an event, and just reframing it is really powerful. And it's something that I think everyone's gone through, especially in business. The amount I started in business wanting to make 1 million in the first year, I did not hit that, and didn't hit in the second year, third year, and so on. But I think the same experience a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, and people, leaders, just in general, go through, which is you set some goals and not always do you hit them the first go round. What's really insightful and inspiring is the way that you're phrasing the next level up. So going from good to great, going from great to world class. That's the stuff that I think as an as someone that wants to accomplish something, anything in life, it's just sometimes you have these caveats and these times where you're you're a bit at a loss, right? So I'm sure you felt that way on the first time, the second time, especially with your mate who passed out just in the last
Yeah,
few hours. Um, and then for you to still be bringing that team together in all the scenarios and the pitfalls that happened to cross the finish line together with that guy as well is just something that any leader wants for his team. And I think that one of the biggest struggles that people face is just, okay, how do we do that? How do we go and instill those values? Because that comes back to that first point you mentioned, Scotty, about the values that businesses need to have in place to have that foundation to go from good to great. And that was a question that was on my mind from them. It's just like, how do you do that? Like, how do you go into organizations? What is that first step that you take?
yeah. It always comes back to the values every single
Mm.
time, right? And those qualities and values and ethos and mindset,
Mm.
whatever that looks like, right? For the Marines, I've spoke to you about our values, but other organisations and other teams will have theirs. Well, are you living the values? Are you true to them? And does it link back to whatever you believe in? I believe in this.
Mm.
You cut me open and I'm green inside, and this represents something. It represents those qualities and values that we're extremely proud of. We started off by speaking about the transition, right?
Mm.
And by the time I'd left the Marines and felt as though I'd accomplished so much, my journey's not finished yet. I've got so much I want to do still. But it's really
100%.
interesting to hear you speak. During that transition, I took a step back and had a pause, a tactical pause, if you like. The Marines call it taking a knee. Just take a moment.
Mm.
Where's your journey? Where are you? Where are we going? Right? Seems simple, doesn't it?
Mm.
So I don't know if you heard of a guy called Simon Sinek, but
Yeah.
he talks about what is your why?
Mm.
What gets you out of bed in the morning? What drives you? What's going to motivate you to do that tomorrow? Right? And I had a look at my why, and I could tell you what it wasn't. It wasn't to make £1 million.
Mm.
Yeah. I needed
Yeah.
something with deeper meaning. You don't join the Marines for money. Okay. You do it because it's a calling. You feel connected. You feel as though you've got an identity as part of an organization that you believe in. And those qualities and values are something which you're going to try to strive to live every day. After some thought, I came up with what my individual why is. Because this is going to be your springboard, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
what my why is? My
So.
why is about life fulfillment. It's about the life fulfillment I get from trying to inspire others to achieve their impossible dreams, just like I. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, working with people, helping them to achieve their own dreams. Nothing to do with money, nothing to do with anything as shallow as that. This
Mm.
is about people. And I work with people in leadership, on the shop floor, at every single level, from junior people who have just started working in the hospitality industry all the way up to senior CEOs of multi-global international companies and everything in between, because this is relevant to
Mm.
everybody, no matter what position or part of the journey that you are. How do you strive to be better? How do you continue to build the values? um,
Mm.
and those stepping stones, have a goal. Yeah, break it down into little process steps along the way to get to your first part of your goal. Yeah, and then break the next part down and break it down, and how are you going to do it? And reflect and look at your performance honestly about how you did, how you can be better, how you can get to the next stage. And we do this in the Marines all the time. There's a brilliant chapter on that in my book about how to continue on the stepping stones to success in life. You know, in businesses, you have colleagues.
Mm.
In sports, you have teammates. But in the Marines, we are brothers.
Mm.
And that camaraderie, that link together, that when we come together, we realize that team unity that we've got means that your collective team level can reach up here, whereas an individual, you can do it
Mm.
down here. And when you truly throw away, you know, those selfish tendencies that want to earn a
Mm.
fortune, to have that brand new car or this big house, or to go on holidays. So once you clear that away, because it doesn't mean anything, does it?
Mm.
None of that means anything.
Mm.
Once you clear it away and you find true meaning in your life, that's when all those things start to come in anyway. That's
Mm.
just a natural carryover benefit of continually getting the little things right.
Yeah. No, I feel you, Scotty. I remember, just to kind of circle back on that point. My second year was my first target was 100K, and I met my business partner Andy, and that target was delayed because obviously you've got other people that you're starting to pay now. I bumped into another colleague called Irfan, still with me to this day. We've been together in business for 5 years. And what happened was that transition for me, which was the I think what kept me in business so long, right, over the tough times, was that it was no longer a monetary goal. It was more around the people that I was working alongside and bettering ourselves. We all went through this kind of transition.
Yeah.
And your experience with working with businesses, when companies out there are looking for how do I instill these values that get people out of bed in the morning, what would be interesting to know from your standpoint, having been on the the end of that and helping companies to put that in place, is it always people centric? Because it feels like it is it always it?
It's got to be. It's got
Mm,
to be about people.
mm,
You know, managers manage tasks, but leaders lead people, right?
mm,
And you know, these what one of the things that I've learned along my journey from some of the inspirational leaders that I've come across, right? And I've seen lots of different types of leaders in different organisations in different areas
mm,
across multiple industries and organisations. Is that you can tell the inspirational leaders by the way that your people engage with you,
mm,
right? So if I wasn't inspired by a leader, I'd turn off, right?
mm,
Look the other way, get my phone out, make a phone call, go to the toilet, whatever, right? But if a leader stands up and says, you know what, we've messed up, I take responsibility for that. Okay. All of a sudden they've got my attention, right?
mm,
Or if one of the leaders says, oh, do you know, I'm going to come down on the shop floor and work with you guys to see what it's really like down there. And they do it.
mm,
That leader will get my attention as well,
mm,
right? And any leader in any organization should be aspiring to inspire their people every single day. Because leaders set the tone and environment for any organization. They've got to,
mm,
right? So as a leader, no matter what level you're at, it could be a junior, senior, boardroom leader, if you inspire your people or try to every single day by doing something that helps to connect them, what they will do is that they will engage with you. So the first rule as a leader for me is to inspire.
mm,
I know if I can inspire you, Alex,
mm,
then you're more likely to want to engage with me. Yeah.
mhm,
And when we're engaging together, that's where I can help you to develop and help you to change. Inspire, engage, change. And
mm,
that is a model that I've seen time and time and time again. That is the way that my thinking always goes when I have the opportunity to lead any team or to work with any business. And I speak to the leaders, what do you do to inspire your people? What are your values? What are your goals? Do your people feel valued? Do they enjoy their work? Do they want to come and work for you?
mm,
Okay. And you get into speaking to them about things that actually matter.
mhm,
And when you engage with people, things like, how are you actually getting on, Alex? You know, how's your wife doing? Okay, how's your family doing? You know, one of the best leaders in the Marines that I knew, he had 1,000 Marines under his command. He knew the names of every single one of us. And
mm,
he'd come up to me and asked me, Scotty, how's Suzanne doing? Would know the name of my wife. And I'm like,
mm,
ah, he knows me. He's taken the time to engage with me. He genuinely cares. When you feel as an employee that a boss, no matter what level it is, cares about you, you will bleed for them. You will bleed for them, whether that's in business, on a football field, or in battle.
mm. Very interesting. I always have this concept called you have to pay attention to receive attention, right? And that's a valuable commodity because it's not something like money that can just be made up, right? You've got a finite amount of it, so that's why it's so valued. On that note, with when you're talking about inspiration, because you've gone into sporting teams and helped them win, what is it that is not being done or is it not that simple that a team can be under one management and then a new manager comes in and they explode, they win everything? Is it as simple as there was a lack of inspiration in the prior just due to whatever? And if so, what are the levers that you pull to drive, or to what can a leader think about when they're wanting to inspire and wanting to engage, what above and beyond, hey, um uh paying attention, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one size fits all. That's the good
Mm,
thing about this.
yeah.
Is that it's important for me to listen. Okay, so if I'm
Hmm.
working with any organisation, the key thing is to listen to them.
Hmm.
That'll give you some information about the journey they've been on, where they are at the moment. Okay, whether it's a toxic environment or whether the
Mm,
team's doing well, or whether they've got values or they may not have. Could be a new business. It could be an organisation that's been going for hundreds of years.
hmm.
Who've got their firmly set values. You have to listen to them, and
Hmm.
by listening to them, you gain information.
Hmm.
And information's no good unless you analyze it. So this information comes in, you analyze it, you think, okay, would I be right in saying that this is roughly where you are and where you want to go is up here, and we can
Hmm.
work out how to get there. And that might be different if you're working across, tech or a sales team or a scaffolding team, like I was working with the other day. And I think the place to start is respect.
Hmm.
Right? I see respect as three different ways.
Hmm.
So the respect that hopefully you've got for yourself. You
Hmm.
spoke about paying and receiving attention just now.
Hmm.
I was listening, you see.
You are
Right.
indeed.
And respect. Hopefully you got some respect for yourself, right? Because I see it as three different ways. The respect you have for yourself, hopefully the respect that you have for others, and I do have respect for you, Alex, after we've met a couple of times. And I would like to think that then the third part is the respect that others have in you,
Hmm.
right? And it was interesting to see. I'd speak about the England football team. In the background, they got a lot of staff, really clever people, highly capable people, and it was important to listen to them. So it was one of Gareth's backroom staff who had a positive experience because he'd come down to work with a lot of us Marines many years before that when the England rugby team came down. I was part of that.
Hmm.
And the England rugby team, we put them through their paces. They went on to go and do really well, winning their own World Cup in 2003. So now, fast forward about 15 years, and he said to Gareth, we need to get, if we're serious about trying to win our own World Cup, we need to get down to see the Marines. So they come down and we put them through their paces. And it was important to get alongside Gareth straight away. And I said to him, Gareth, what is it you think us Marines can help you with?
Hmm.
Now I'm listening.
Hmm.
He says, Scotty, you're an England fan. He said, you know that our team has been paralysed through fear of failure.
Hmm.
Tournament after tournament, big game after big game. We keep doing the same thing and getting the same poor result. Something's got to change. And Gareth had realised that ultimately the whole culture of the team had to change as well. And it was interesting to have several conversations. One of the first things we spoke about was leadership. How
Hmm.
did we develop these leaders at every level? Leaders that can link up to their boss, can support down to the people that have the privilege to lead, ones who drive the standards from within the organisation and then represent them outwards to anybody who will listen, which in the case of the England football team is the whole nation,
Hmm.
right? And respect is the key thing. And Gareth was insistent that all of his team came down. So, you're thinking all of his first team, all the players, right? That's what you're instantly thinking of.
Hmm.
But you forget there's a whole load of staff. There's a medical team. There's an analysis team. There's a kit man. There's a security guy. There's assistant coaches. And the England football team's got 55 people in it, right? And they go everywhere together. Then, on speaking to a couple of them,
Hmm.
previous regimes before Gareth came in,
Hmm.
long before, they were disjointed. Leaders would
Hmm.
go over there and eat dinner. The staff would go over there. The players would go over there, and they weren't a team. They were disparate. You see, how do we bring them together? One of the key things was the togetherness, and Gareth realised this straight away, and he
Hmm.
formed that ring of steel like the Marines. Well, then they started working on by Doing something as stark as coming down to work with the Marines for a whole weekend. Gareth knew that as long as everybody was there and they go through this life changing experience and they come out the other side together, more unified, like a ring of steel,
Mm-hmm.
better, stronger, and fitter and better prepared for the mental rigours of the World Cup's going to throw at them. Because we put them through the situations whereby they were out of their comfort zone, the pressure was on. How difficult to replicate a penalty kick on a training pitch, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you take someone out of their environment where they feel comfortable, you put them in another environment where they feel uncomfortable, then you
Mm-hmm.
add some stress and watch them overcome, support and nurture and guide them to overcome. Then they leave my environment, go back into theirs, and they've had this experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the carryover benefit of everybody being there is it didn't matter whether you were the kit man or you were Harry Kane scoring the hat tricks. They had respect for each other and realised that no matter what part in the business you are, or the organisation or the
Mm.
team, you may be down here perceived or you may be up there, but your job is as important as each other. And you have this parity and you have respect and you realise that you can't score a hat trick without the kit man making sure that all the kit equipment's there. And each job was as important as each other. And you start off with a team that's got respect for one another, then you can start to work on such things about you brought that team together. You got this respect. Now we can start to work on about how we perform under pressure, how we overcome resilience, how we go the next level and turn average team into a good team into a great team, or a great team into a world class team. And this is how it's done. That competitive edge, you know, in businesses, you try to get a competitive edge over each other. In sports teams, you try to get an edge. In the Marines, we try to get an edge over an enemy.
Mm.
And we have to, otherwise we're going to die. In the Marines, we've got these stark experiences that we use and then translate them into sports talk or into business talk that people will understand it because they've never been in battle, so how can they? But take these lessons that I've learned along the way, translate them into whatever the business I'm working with, and it gives people an understanding about how we start here and we get here.
Mm. It's very interesting. I want to be respectful of your time, Scotty, because we've been on it for a while, and I could talk to you all day, by the way. But
Yeah, we've done an hour
I
and
would,
about 5 minutes. Is that okay?
yeah, that's fine. But I'd love one more point on this,
Yeah,
which is my last question.
go on.
After I have to ask this, which is you've mentioned taking people out of comfort and putting them into uncomfortable. And what is it? Is it that taking making people uncomfortable? It helps them to shed some of their ego, and or what is the benefit there? Why does that help so much in kind of putting someone in a challenging situation?
And any business is surely the same. Someone feels comfortable in what they're doing.
Mm,
Okay, they're working at their level. That's fine. They could be really good at their job. They have the routine and they do things day after day. But let's say you're ambitious,
hmm
and you want to go to the next level. Well, how do you do that? Do you just continue working at this level down here, day after day after day, and hope that you get promoted, or can you do something about it? And this is the same in any business, right? How do you strive to improve? How do you strive to be better? And really, the only one of the only ways I know to do that is
mm,
to raise your head, put your hand up, and say, I volunteer for this. I want to understand. I want to be in a position of responsibility. I want you to give me more responsibility so you can see what I'm capable of, so you can
mm,
see what my potential is. Okay. And then hopefully I do that well enough so that you then think, oh, this is someone with great potential who's performing really well, who's gaining experience in the business. And we're going to look at them to go to the next level. And,
mm,
and by daring to dream, by raising your head above the parapet. You
mm,
may feel uncomfortable to start with. It may be it's normal to feel uncomfortable because you're going to strive to do something you've not done before.
mm,
Okay, so you will feel uncomfortable, but embrace that because you're
mm,
learning something new. You're learning a new skill. you're improving. And it may be that things don't go to plan or they don't work out very well, but hopefully you've got guides and mentors and somebody by your side who can help you, show you the ropes, and say, I really like the way that you've tried to do that. Okay, however, if I was you, a way to improve it, a little bit of feedback. This is how you could do it better next time. They have another experience. Let's say, I don't know, they're doing a motivational talk to their organisation, or they're talking to their business about what they do, and it's quite daunting to have 30 or 40 of your colleagues or your peers out front. But how many of them are going, yeah, I'll go and do the talk. I'll speak about where we are and what we've been doing this quarter or this term. Okay, and by putting yourself into an uncomfortable position like that, you're growing. Right? And from what I've seen in my life, people have a growth or a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset, I've noticed, often say this phrase: I can't do it. They're fixed on where they are. Don't anticipate any growth. Somebody with a growth mindset may say, I haven't done it yet, but I will one day. That sort of language, having an open mindset to growth, daring to dream, raising your head above the parapet, getting ready to learn the things that you've not been excited about, learning the things that you've not learnt yet, and looking forward to this upward journey. You know, when I was 16, 17, 18, just starting my career in the Marines, I wasn't a senior commissioned officer of the Royal Marines. I was just a young lad starting out on the journey. Okay, but I was lucky enough, and if you can find somebody who's a mentor, somebody you believe in, somebody who's got your back, somebody when you're down on the ground will help you get back up again. You've got someone like that in your lives. They'll help to show you the ropes, the stepping stones to success in life. Okay, and they'll guide you. And that's one thing the Marines have been very lucky over 359 years. It's like a legacy. We have this sense of belonging and identity whereby we pass our knowledge on to others, which is what I'm doing now. Pass that knowledge on to others in the aspiration that hopefully they will improve in their lives, get on the stepping stones to success in life, take their part in society, their place in society, and leave their own legacy once they move on. That is what this Green Beret means. Passing the baton onto the next generation of our inspirational people and leaders. And the best thing about being a leader is the people that you get to work with. I absolutely love working with organisations and businesses around the world and meeting incredible people, just like you, Alex, because I'm a people person. And it's been wonderful to speak to you today, and I've really enjoyed it. And I hope everybody else has enjoyed what I've spoken about.
I must say, Scotty, this has been insightful. It's been reflective for me. It's been powerful, and it's been useful in more ways than you'll know, Scotty. So I appreciate you taking the time today to speak with me. I know you're a busy man, and I'm sure you've got some more flying to do and some jet setting around the world. And with that, I'm sure that well, one thing is I'm going to buy your book and I'll be reading that and giving you
Good plug. I like that.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'll be speaking to you about that, and yeah, I'll be looking forward to at some point inviting you back on and just picking your brains again, because I'm confident that when this gets put out there, there's going to be a lot of value that people see in it, and I think that it's just been amazing to have you here, Scotty. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, mate. Nice, Alex.